Hi everybody, this is Michael Olin-Hitt. What follows is a presentation on cultivating spiritual gifts. I conduct this presentation at different organizations, and I usually tailor it to the specific needs and focus of the organization. This recording was done at Merging Hearts Holistic Center. It's a center I know very well. For the past 15 years, I've conducted monthly oracle sessions at Merging Hearts, and for a short time I served as the president of their board. So I've had to split this presentation into 3 parts. So this is part 1, and thank you for joining me, and I hope you find it engaging. So let me define what I think spiritual gifts are so we can speak the same language. I truly believe it's the birthright of every human being to have an intimate connection with the holy. It's our right, and it's already there. Sometimes it takes half a lifetime to figure out how the Creator and the energy of the Spirit communicates to you. It takes half a lifetime sometimes to learn to trust that intuition and to cultivate those gifts. So I want to take a little time today to encourage you and tell you how some of those manifestations can take place. Here's a partial list of spiritual gifts, and it's partial because I don't even know them all. Right? And there are subcategories in every one of these. Some people have a deep spiritual intuition, just a sense of knowing. And you learn to trust that knowing. Right? My wife has that, and I have learned to trust it. They call that discernment in the Christian tradition. Some people sense the energy of the Spirit. It just washes through your body. You can't help it. And you feel it more intensely some places than other places, right? It could be in nature, could be around people, but some people just feel that energy. Some people call that vibration. I call it spiritual energy. Yeah. It's just in motion all the time. And of course, it passes through everything that's living. And some people feel it very intensely. Other people can actually absorb that energy. You can give it intention, the intention of healing and other things. Right? And sometimes you know exactly where that energy comes into your body. You know exactly how to work it through. That does lead to healing for a lot of people. A lot of people here explore that through Reiki, which is a tradition of allowing you to let that energy come through you and work on people's spiritual energy, also people's health, which is connected. A lot of people perceive the presence of spiritual visitors. That's how mine started as a kid. You know. Some people actually see it. And a lot of people come to my oracle sessions trying to figure out, why does this happen to me? What am I supposed to do with it? And we'll talk about it a little later. So I know people with all of these gifts. Some people communicate with spiritual guides. They come in a variety of forms, and we use a variety of types of language to talk about these. You can call them messengers, guides, angels. Jeannie, I would include animals, spirit helpers. They come in a whole variety of forms. I am convinced that the Holy wants to communicate with us with such devotion to us that the Holy is willing to use the language that we understand. But I also have come to know that the different types of messengers do bring different types of messages. Spirit helpers of animal spirit helpers are a little bit different. They have a different signature, a different kind of emphasis. And we're just intuitively built sometimes to receive a certain kind of spirit guide, or we explore a tradition in which a certain type of spirit guide is more prone to come to us because of ritual and openness. Some people hear spiritual guidance in nature. I know people to whom nature speaks. Or at least you feel the energy in nature so intensely that it's the one place you can truly relax and feel connected to the Creator. Right? So that happens to a lot of people. Yeah. A deep sense of spiritual knowing. You just, your whole life, known about the presence of the Creator, and many people who have this get very frustrated with religion because I'm serious, the Creator does not behave in that way. You can't even explain the knowing. Not everybody has that. That's why people follow these things. And I will take questions during. Jeannie?
I was just going to say, because I remember at the age of 4 correcting my parents and correcting the pastor.
You knew.
Yeah, I knew.
At the age of 4.
No, this is wrong.
It comes early. I think it comes before our birth. When you have that knowing, it comes from before your birth, and you grow up with it. And it makes it very hard to fit in. And it can be very frustrating. And we'll talk about that a little bit.
I would say, in defense, as a devout Catholic, I don't see any disassociation between spirit and religion.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you also, Genesis. And I'm going to address this. A lot of people run from religion, but there's so much wisdom and guidance in the traditions. Okay? Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient with the dogma. I agree with you. My whole beginning of my spiritual journey began in Christianity. And I'm still connected to that tradition. And there is depth and integrity in all those traditions and centuries of experience and guidance through the mystical experiences. And I agree with you, Janice. We can rely on that. But a lot of people get harmed by the dogma and run from it all. And I think it's a mistake to run from it all. And I'm going to address that in a little bit. Because there's so much guidance, in the traditions, in the ancient scriptures, from multiple traditions. So I agree with you, Genesis. Some people are just a presence of spiritual comfort to others. You know these people. They just have to be present. Some of you are that person. You just feel, people in your presence feel spiritual comfort and peace. And they want you around, and your hugs are magic. What is your name?
I'm Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi. Nice to meet you finally.
Thank you.
One of the gifts that I don't see on here, and to be honest, it's scary because I've had this since I was a really little kid, and I've only met a few people that feel the same way, and they're scared too, is being a manifester. So being able to control or use your power to create things or make things happen. And I know we all have this. We're all, creative beings. But when it'll, as a young child, you realize that your thoughts have created things. It's really scary, and you don't know who to talk to about it. And you can cause things that are very frightening to happen when
Right.
you don't know what's going on.
Another one I don't have, so you're calling that a manifester, a person whose thoughts can influence situations. Some people in, let's say, in religious traditions will call that a person with the power of prayer, right? There are some people whose prayers, they actually make it happen. I consider psychic gifts to be spiritual gifts. And we use different language. And I think we need to unify our language and be open and patient with each other's languages so they don't split us up, right? So many people in religions are afraid of the occult. You know what occult means?
Esoteric.
The spirit of the study of the esoteric, the study of the spirit. Jesus was among the occult. That's all it means. So anyway, I would say visionary experiences, predicting the future. Some people have that gift. It comes in dream, it comes in vision. In the biblical tradition, that's called the seer, which is what Samuel was. Samuel was not a prophet, he was a seer. And there's a distinct difference. Seeing auras, predicting the future, the seer, channeling, tarot card readings. For some people, that's amazingly effective. Divine guidance, angel messengers, mediumship. Kind of what I do, I don't quite call mediumship. Some of you know my gift, because mediumship is usually associated with the spirits of the dead. Sometimes they come into my sessions and give some. Usually it's very visual. It's almost sign language. So anyway, all these things I consider spiritual gifts, and it's a partial list, right? Because I don't know them all. I've heard of them all. I've heard of that gift, and it is scary. I'll talk about how scary these can be. Okay, so Marcus Borg, in a book surprisingly called Meeting Jesus Again for the First Time, I find wisdom in all these things, right? So I don't run from them. He is what would be known as a progressive Christian. He actually wrote on progressive Christianity. So he's not an exclusive Christian. So I took this, I just want to read it to you, so forgive me, I'll read it along so we're all in the same place. He says, the spirit persons, actually I can't see my own screen, so I'm going to turn. I tell my students it's rude to turn your back. Excuse my rudeness. Spirit persons are known cross-culturally, all over the world. They are people who have vivid and frequent subjective experiences of another level or dimension of reality. These experiences involve momentary entry into non-ordinary states of consciousness and take a number of different forms. Sometimes there's a vivid sense of momentarily seeing into another layer of reality. These are visionary experiences. Sometimes there is the experience of journeying into that strong sense of another reality. This is the classic experience of the shaman. Sometimes there is a strong sense of another reality coming upon one. As in the ancient expression, the spirit fell upon me. That's more of my experience. Sometimes the experiences of nature or an object within nature momentarily transfigured by the sacred, shining through it. Brushes burn without being consumed. There's Moses. The whole earth is seen as filled with the glory of God, where glory means radiant presence. The world is perceived in such a way that previous perceptions seem nothing more than blindness. He goes on to explain the function that spirit people serve in their cultures. They end up being conduits of the holy, of the spirit. Our culture doesn't know how to accept and cultivate that anymore, right? But in indigenous cultures, where shamanic practices are encouraged and recognized, these people are known. They live regular lives, and when you want them to engage their spiritual gift in those cultures, Native American especially, you give them tobacco first. That means, I see you, I see your sacred self, I'm calling upon your sacredness. Okay, I recognize you. You're not the hunter, you're not the really good, I mean you are these things, but right now I need this. Then they perform, and then you give them some kind of payment. So the tobacco is not the payment, tobacco is the recognition. It's a sacred herb. I see you for who you are, and I need you in your holy way, right? So my Native American friends bring tobacco to oracle sessions. I have so much tobacco. And I don't, when I do a prayer pipe, I use traditional kinnikinnick, which has no tobacco in it, you know, so I can throw it in a fire at a ceremony.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if your gift is like you were talking about, like a visionary or another reality, seeing other places put upon you?
Right.
But not in a good way.
Well, it can happen and not in a good way. That's one of the burdens of the seer. It's not a nightmare. You get messages about bad things happening. I have a friend who's a seer who knew when her uncle was going to die, knew what pajamas he was going to wear. And when she saw those pajamas, she knew. This is the last day. He was ill, but it's a burden. Why does it come? The messenger tells people it comes because it comes. Right? It says, why is there foam on the waves? Why does the light reflect through the ice? It happens because it happens. It's a burden. We can choose to use it or not. It's our choice. It's hard, Genesis, I know. That's a tough one. Good things can happen with it too. But there's the shadow. Every spiritual gift has the shadow side. It really does. You got to be courageous. But your courage is for everybody. You are carrying the burden for your people. So that courage is not just yours. Your courage is for your people. I think it's time that we as human beings learn to integrate our spiritual traditions, be patient with the different terminologies, realize we're all on the same journey. I call this the braided way. It's a lesson that came through to me through the messenger, It's in my new book. The last chapter is my explanation of the braided way. I wanted to publish it. I published it in a magazine called Kindred Spirit. I didn't want to use the messenger's language because I wanted people who might not believe in that gift to see the wisdom of the message. The braided way allows us to see that every spiritual tradition is intertwined with each other, especially the spiritual practices. The spiritual practices are the practices that allow us to get into that realm, to let go of ourselves, to merge with the holy. And we're at a time when we can combine these. They're all at our disposal because, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know, the practices of a certain religion do not resonate with your spiritual construction. Perhaps you're raised Catholic, but you know what? It's really meditation that helps you. Perhaps you're raised Muslim, and it's the Native American sweat lodge that breaks you open. Muslims have a hard time with this. They're pretty strict. Christians do too, but they don't have to. Nobody has to be. So I have an article about the braided way in the book. The original message from the messenger is in the book, and I've started a magazine called The Braided Way, where I want to host other people's experiences. I'm enjoying it. I'm just the editor. I'm not going to publish my own stuff. It's amazing what people experience, and I want to tell their stories, or let them tell their stories. Just regular people. Not the famous people. They have their platform. And sometimes when you have a platform, you give the same message over and over and over because it makes little money. I don't need that. Nobody needs that. We can get that in other places. We need a place to celebrate, right, who we are. Thank you for viewing Cultivating Spiritual Gifts. Because this presentation is split into 3 parts, I hope you'll join me for parts 2 and 3. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, or you can just visit me at michaelolin-hitt.com. You can follow me on Facebook and get alerts to my presentations and blogs. I'm actually getting better at Twitter as well. My daughter's helping me on that. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll view parts 2 and 3.